Hello and welcome to another traditional night of Shine Like a North Star. My name is Carrie Burchill and I own North Star Coaching. My company really focuses on helping adults work together well so that they achieve ambitious results. So if there's anything in this time together tonight that sparks something for you, or if you really want to dive into some of that interpersonal dynamic, I'm the one. I want to touch base tonight about some really interesting concepts around time. I had a really insightful conversation with a colleague of mine today, and we were talking about how the Greek terms for time are two different things, and I have to reference them to make sure I'm saying them right. Kronos, which is kind of that chronological linear path of time, so that's Kronos, and Kairos, which is really that abstract time, where you feel like time's flying or like, gosh, this is taking forever to get through. So that abstract, how we really feel time is with us. So Kronos and Kairos. And we were talking about how in our consulting work, we create these spaces for Kairos, that moment where you're sort of in flow and you're absorbed in the moment and you really get lost in time. And then that other side of leadership development, which is, we need people to learn these skills. They need to learn them in this time frame so that they're set up for success in some of the technical parts of work that they do. So the Kronos side of it, and how in our consulting work, we really were able to identify when we have groups and we're certainly achieving whatever that client wants us to. And in that space of learning, creating Kairos, right? Where people just delve into the abyss and they're self-reflective and they're thinking about how they're going to respond to this new challenge they find in themselves. And by challenging themselves, I mean like this light bulb goes off and you're thinking, how can I rise to that new level and really implement some of these new things? So that idea of accomplishing some things and still having this space of deep reflection, which I really think facilitates some of that Kairos work, begs me to then think about, well, how do we set the stage for readiness? Like, how do we know when people are ready for Kronos time change and kind of chronological events of things? And then that Kairos, which is really the flow and the deep dive around work. And so that's some moment of reflection for each of us, right? Are we assessing our team's readiness, our own personal readiness? Are we being honest with ourselves around what we're ready to dive into and kind of those dark caves that we might not so much want to go into, but we know in our tummy that we really need to go into them? I kind of bring this up because I've been talking with some VPs in the work that I do that, COVID has really changed what we want out of leadership. I'm intrigued with these companies that are just tossing out job descriptions, like they're not using them. And that makes a lot of sense to me from the premise of we're constantly evolving so quickly that to have a job description and really match that out, arguably when the rubber hits the road and the project really starts getting in motion, it's going to change. It's going to look different. That job description doesn't maybe tightly fit the work that we're doing. It's like such a rapid evolution now with COVID and just the ongoing things that COVID is sort of asking us to respond to. So if we talk about readiness, and what's the readiness of our leaders, I'm sort of thinking that our paradigm needs to shift a little bit. What we expected leaders to do pre-COVID is different than what we need them to do now. How we assess leaders' readiness before COVID is different from how we look at their readiness now. I have the privilege of being on someone's doctoral program as their advisor, and I'm really thinking about this as the person I'm supporting is doing some work around leadership and programmatic changes and development, and how do leadership programs really meet people's need? Well, it's interesting because what leaders need in their development now looks different. And what's sort of the chronological path that people need to have to fulfill some of their job responsibilities, that Kronos, and what's the Cryos, am I saying it right? Yeah, Kairos. What's the Kairos bit of it, where we really want to kind of stop the clock, help people dive into their reflection, really assess what they are ready for, and just embrace that work. So I challenge you as I wrap up tonight's Shine Like a North Star to really think through, what are you ready for? What's your level of readiness? What does that reflective pattern look like in you? What spaces are you giving yourself for some of that time travel? Sounds sexy when I say it like that, doesn't it? But I'm really challenging you as colleagues and friends and people who may want to engage with North Star coaching to really untangle, where do we need you to be? And what's your readiness to get there? Reach out, because I'm here to support you. Have a great night.